So let's begin class. And you are fine turning the camera off, but everybody should mute themselves unless you have a question.
I don't want her to hear me screaming in pain.
No. Okay. Draw your spine up tall, weighty, tall, broad. Sit up straight. Sit high enough that you can, in fact, sit up straight. Watch your head, Emilia. Watch that. Watch that right side of the neck and head. It's definitely curvy today. Be upright, not leaning forward, not leaning backward. So the spine is built to extend upward. The spinal cord, spinal vertebra surrounding that cord should draw both long and open. So there's this upward movement through the vertebra to give uprightness and support to that spine, all the paraspinal muscles. And the muscles that support these ribs on the inside, there's also a bit of an internal lift. It's not huge, but it's a sense of not heaviness. The sternum, not heavy. So there's that. The outside layer of muscles, outside the spine, outside the paraspinals, on the outside of the rib cage, are the muscles that run your arms. In the front, that's these pectoral muscles, and in the back, your shoulder blades. The outer layer of muscle is arms in this upper body. In the pelvis, the outer layers of muscle run the legs. The closest to the spine layers are spinal muscles, and they help make the pelvis upright, abdomen upright, thoracic spine, neck, head. Now, your arms begin at the skull, as a matter of fact. So the downward release of these arms, regardless of your hand position, is from the skull and the spine. So from the skull, you release down. From that vertical spine, you release sideways, right? Shoulders, arms come out from the spine. Legs come out and down from the spine. That's the outer layer, down, spreading. Inner layer, up. By the way, the top of the lifting structure is the base of the skull, topmost vertebra, which is right at the level of the ear, the jaw, the mouth, the back of the mouth. So right in there is the top of this upward lift. This brain rests on that structure. Join your palms, close your eyes. Keep the lower jaw and upper jaw separate, open. Allow the innermost ear to respond to the breath as if the inhalation and exhalation were felt through the ear as much as the throat. I'm not telling you to draw air through the ear, but I'm asking you to relax the ear inward toward the throat. As a matter of fact, you have the eustachian tube connecting the ear to the throat. So there's a tangible line. Develop it. Open the mouth, the ear, the sides of the neck, and release the arm from this same zone: base of the skull, ear, top of the neck, jaw, sides of the spine. So link your breathing, your hearing, your throat and jaw and skull. Link them. Link the movement of consciousness to your actions, ear, throat, jaw, spine. Things change in the mind, body, breath, mind, linking. Bow to this practice. Release your hands. Keep that zone in your awareness as you pull your spine back up. Raise your head and open your eyes. Now, stretch your legs and change the crossing. Get comfy, get symmetrical. Have a strap. Oh, yeah. Have a strap and make it a big loop so that you could hold on to it at shoulder width or a little wider if your shoulder's asking for that. So you're holding on to it, palms facing the floor and the thumbs facing each other. Okay, so for a moment you rest. Now, there's possibility of working super hard with your muscles. Don't work super hard. Work for this connectivity, this linkage. So you're gonna stretch your arms first, the physical aspect. These arms are releasing from the skull and spine. So down and away from the spine in a very continuous action. It's not just this way, it's also just flat out spreading, flat out, like your neck didn't exist and your arm starts at your skull. Spread the skull to stretch the arms. Stretch the arms, go up. What's happening to the neck, the arm extension? Keep the ear, jaw, throat open. Roll those triceps toward each other. You may even turn your palms a bit toward each other. And exhale, come out. So shorten the strap so when you put your hands through it, you're about that same width you were when you were holding it. But now you're using the strap differently. Make your seat correct. Draw that spine up. Get tall. Find out what's happening. Are you gripping anywhere in this upper part where the breathing apparatus, the hearing, the senses, the breath, the body, and the central nervous system, they're all kind of in one place. So let your attention be there. Stretch the arms from there. Stretch your fingers from there. Take them up. If you're watching me, my mouth is open, and that's because I'm working extra hard to keep this jaw zone as soft as possible. Now work with this breath, inhalation and exhalation. And exhale, come out. Working with the breath means be more energetic about your effort to inhale or your effort to exhale. Let's go to a horizontal position, but with support. Probably 2 blankets are needed. So start with those blankets folded as they would be for shoulder stand, if that makes any sense. I really should get a striped blanket so you have a clear picture. Yikes. I'm going to make a mess if I get a striped blanket, so I hope you get this. This would be the stripes. They go this way, and I fold the blanket across the stripes. Then I fold it in thirds. And it's fan folded. That means it's not rolled. It's flat folded. This is different from Monday, if you came to Monday's class. Okay, and you put this tri-folded blanket crosswise on your sticky mat about where you think your chest is going to be. So I'm going to point my head here, and I'm going to put this about where I think my head's going to go. Now, some of you are going to have trouble with this because even this small thing makes a big back bend for some of you, a big opening in this thoracic spine. And it's going to interfere with this zone, if not other parts of the spine. So you need to take your second blanket and make a small roll out of it, small. And just put it like so, small. You just, basically you're starting by creating a little ledge on which to position this zone. So you go down onto your sternum. This blanket is below my sternum. And my shoulders are in between the sternum blanket and this neck support. Now I roll that support so it makes contact with the zone. That's what I'm going to start calling it now instead of giving it all those words. So you're not stopping this backbend shape, however it's going, this arc and the descent of the head, but you are giving that throat and skull support. And you need to experiment a little bit. Those of us who experience neck tension, headaches, mouse work aches, computer aches, back kicks, you gotta take your sensitivity seriously and be experimental. You know, one shape doesn't necessarily, that feels okay, isn't necessarily the excellent shape. There may be something better. Let that shoulder socket drop to the floor. So it is not the topmost shoulder blade that is supported. Now, another thing that might influence your thinking is that just inside the ear, if you go straight through ear to ear, you're going to run through a part of your brain, the brain stem, and possibly at that same level also the cerebellum. Now the brain stem and the cerebellum are, as we've talked about, really ancient parts of your brain. We share them with every vertebrate creature. Every vertebrate creature has something like a brainstem that has the same functions, which have to do with regulating breathing, for instance, heartbeat, life support systems, basically, which all beings with a spinal cord have life support functions that are carried and mediated by that top part of the spinal cord. So we're like everybody else. And also the cerebellum regulates movement of all sorts. All sorts. So if you become very, very still physically, that back part of the brain becomes very still. So this zone is important. All movement also means the movement of heartbeat and breath, not just arms and legs. Now, I'm assuming this is comfortable for most people. It is. If it's not, can you give yourself a minute to perhaps shift, raise the head, look the head, move your spine on the blanket. If you're comfy, stay put. And the next thing you're going to do is, all of you, no doubt, are aware of a part of the body that has been injured or that is not relaxing for whatever reason. So now you want to go back to this connection, body, mind, breath, and begin using the breath as a tool, an intermediary between the body and mind. Start inhaling. This we've been working on this week. Start inhaling with more vigor. And inhale in such a way that you inhale, uplifting that movement from the pelvis into the chest wall. So there is this mechanical, physical, upward expansion of the chest that lengthens and sort of scoops out a little bit the inner walls of the pelvis and the abdomen. A vigorous inhalation will do this, and vigorous is a relative term. You get a very gentle scooping action with a very gentle and subtle inhalation. You will get a more vigorous scooping with a more vigorous inhalation. You may also get a more penetrating breath, so you may be able to scoop a little deeper, wider, higher, with more vigor, more velocity to the inhalation. So you need to work these efforts at deep inhalations, not in an endless chain. That's the way to hyperventilate. You maybe want to do 2 connected cycles of higher velocity inhalation. And observe keeping that jaw, throat, ear soft, listening, and kind of uninvolved. Then you take a rest. So I'm calling your attention in this kind of breath to the pelvic zone. The excavation capacity of the inhalation, the cleaning and emptying capacity. Now, all of this is according to your capacity. So if there's any more you can do, give it a try. If you are struggling to kind of maintain that quietness, jaw, ear, brain, the higher brain, frontal lobes, midbrain, they're quiet. You're just living in that back brain with your breath and heartbeat. Even if you take a vigorous breath. So it might take a while to build up to a strong, long, deep breath. And I don't mean just one day. Now, let's go back to ordinary breathing. And then bend your elbows, knees. Support your head as you roll to your side and come up sitting. Now, let's try something different. If you're more flexible in chest opening, then you would work with a bolster. And by more flexible, I mean pretty ordinary flexibility. A bolster is good. So if there's a lot of stiffness, you go back to low support, but it needs to be broader. So you would take 2 shoulder stand blankets folded in half. And that gets you sort of bolster width. And you use 2 of them. And if all you've got is blankets, no bolster, then use 3 of these if you're feeling like bolster height. So at least 2 of these or 1 of these, and then you need, just to start off, you need another little support for your feet. So I'm going to show with the bolster so you can see it in sort of large scale. I've got a strap that's for Baddha Konasana. So it goes over my head and waist. And then I have a seat and I take Baddha Konasana on the end of this bolster, so my feet have to use the extra support. And when that hip, you tell me if this hip replacement is going to protest at Baddha Konasana. Yes, protest, it'll be okay. Good. So you take this strap and it goes over the pelvis and thighs and under the toes, over the hips, on top and under the feet. And it tightens. The easiest way to tighten it is toward you, pulling the buckle free end toward you. And this strap goes right across the tailbone line. So you are not sitting on it, and it's not up at your waist, it's down around the tailbone, and not too tight. You need some give in this. Don't pull it to the maximum. Let it be. You see, I've got some looseness here. So I go back, rolling those buttocks, coming down on the spine. See how I traveled to the single bolster or blanket as my shoulders rolled down. Now, this strap is now tight. Some of you may even, that's why I ask you to pull this buckle towards you, so you could loosen it slightly and adjust the tension so you can tolerate this. Now, if you cannot, you simply take off the strap and be cross-legged. Okay, so you see some options, cross-legged or Baddha Konasana. Don't be too tight with that strap. It gets tight as you move. Keep it low on the pelvis. Don't let it slip. Also, don't sit on it. It should not, by the way, it should not cover your hip sockets. It's not cross it, so it can't go that low. Suzette, just making sure there. Not that I see it, I'm just saying, okay? So the chest and rib cage coil down to the floor. And if you miscalculated the height, by all means, you could put a blanket once again under that skull and neck. So you had this sense of support right there at the back brain, ear, throat, jaw. This entire zone is linked to your breath. Okay, I see some people looking disturbed. Another thing you can do, if just shifting to swastikasana is not comfortable or doesn't seem reasonable, you can come out and elevate your feet so they're lifted higher than your hips. This will take sacrum and lumbar pressure off. Okay. So you go back to this quiet mode, not actually working with your breath yet, just observing how this pose has shifted the body, spine, ribs, hips, arms, legs, neck, head, face. How it shifted your sensations, not just the body, but the information that's coming in about those parts in this position. There is also a mind alteration in this position. Sometimes it can be observed in well, your like or dislike, your response to your sensations. If it's very intense, perhaps dislike comes up, perhaps fear comes up. Also, perhaps relief and quietness comes up. So there's psychological, emotional, sensory changes, structural changes. Okay. Everybody change your leg position. So if you're in Baddha Konasana, slip out of the strap with as little disturbance as possible. Just raise the legs if necessary, and be cross-legged. Now, begin with more attention on the inhalation and begin changing the velocity of the inhalation a few cycles as before. And see if in that lengthening, drawing, expansive inhalation, you can open up the spine, the different vertebra compartments. And then, yes, you can stretch your legs. They might go back on to that support you originally had. You can also change the crossing of the legs. Eventually you'll need to. So it's your timing for the next few minutes. Again, you begin with the inhalation becoming higher velocity according to your capacity. Deeper excavation. Now, change gears, go back to normal breathing. And for the last minute or two, work on the exhalation. And you can change the velocity, you can change the force, but don't, like with the inhalation, you're not trying to push it out like Bastrika, but you're trying instead to focus that exhalation so that it scours just like the inhalation did. But it scours instead of emptying the content, which is what that inhale does. It seems to, pull content out of the cell into the lung. Then you can exhale it somewhere. The exhalation is the directed exit or movement of what you've pulled up in the inhalation. So you can exhale to your paraspinal muscles. You can exhale to the inner wall of the pelvis. You can exhale to the whole broad low back. You can exhale wherever you need to. Bend your elbows. Let yourself come back to regular breathing. Bend your elbows, bend your knees. Now, there are two ways of coming off this blanket. The most correct one is to pick your hips up and push the bolster out from under you. If that is too cumbersome, you can draw your knees up toward your chest and roll to the side. But the knees have to come up. So those who push the bolster out, you still wind up rolling to your side and coming up sitting. So we kind of did two supports. One was elevating the chest and one was elevating the pelvis. They're different. They're different. So now let's go upside down a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean, we're gonna do a modified dog pose for which you have to get your blankets out of the way and replace them with bricks. At a wall. Yeah, here's my wall. So I have 4 bricks, right? Here's 2 on the ground, hip width. And here's 2 more right on top. So I have some height, like, I don't know, 6 inches. It would be better here. Oops. Can you see those stack of 2 bricks? Stack of 4 bricks, 2 and 2. If it were possible, go higher. This is a great height if it's stable. What you do from here is tuck your shirt in and watch my feet in this close-up. My toes get on the edge. You see, if you push sideways, this will fall down. Push it to the wall. It's quite stable if you push down and to the wall. Now, the idea is I'm on top of this brick. My heels are airborne. And the lower body is elevated, which gives you a remarkable excavation of the pelvis. Now, keep your heels off the wall. Keep your toes hanging off the front edge of the brick so the heels do not go near your wall. Raise them up rather than lowering them. Raise up the heels, keeping those base joints standing on top of the bricks. And your dog pose shape is yours to release those shoulders, lengthen the spine. It's a weight bearing in the arms. Now, can you not feel the substantial alteration of the physical position in the inner body, pelvis, abdomen, chest, head, the trunk? And you can also feel the natural excavation capacity of the breath. I mean, it's enhanced by your position, by posture, but it's there in the pose itself. Release, come out. At least walk your feet off the bricks and hand forward and take an ordinary dog pose. Walk your hands forward. So you come to classical pose, feet on the floor, and feel just the comparison. Raise the heels, make the pose as it was before. Don't be heels, don't try to do the classical pose. Just feel the difference between the elevation of the feet and feet on the floor. And you notice there's a difference, yes. So come out, rest. Now, I think that is a significant difference in the way the body and the breath works. I personally love that pose, that elevated foot dog pose. If the arms and the shoulders have trouble with this pose, you locate your strap, and you're going to repeat this with the feet elevated. And if you need to use a strap to give reinforcement to the arms, if you don't need it, don't use it. If you want, let me put it this way, if it helps you keep this zone soft, use that strap. If it's not helping, don't use it. Because right now, here's the focus, right? So don't use the strap, climb up, raise those heels, and stretch your arms from the skull outward and to the floor as if your neck hardly existed in terms of the arm anyway. And work in this pose on the exhalation. Now, there's no need to force the exhalation out. The exhalation, just keep following it. You don't have to lead it, but follow it as far as it goes. And then take another breath with whatever velocity you need to maintain the equilibrium. Open that chest and keep that base of the skull utterly soft. Frontal brain, middle brain, quiet, back brain, alert to the breath and the heartbeat. Ears open, soft, inner walls of the throat open and soft. As if you were breathing with your ears. Come out. So if you can get any good from this kind of imagery or instruction, then headstand becomes sustainable, bearable. And so I don't know if I want you to do actual headstand if you're not comfortable doing it, but if you have a regular practice, you should attempt this pose, headstand, for a minute, 2 minutes. We don't have a lot of time. If you don't do headstand, I want you to do, for 2 minutes, a different pose. It's, I guess we'll call it horizontal headstand. So you sit in a chair and you put your hands on bricks. Sorry, have to bring this in again. Let's see what I see. That's pretty good. Coming close. Okay. So your hands are on bricks, or preferably on the floor, so that the line from your skull to your tailbone is kind of straight. Not going to be totally straight, but if you have a lot of curvature here, you should definitely come up higher so you can get more length. That's important. So figure this out. And your headstand has you sitting comfortably on this chair. So your thighs can relax. And Suzette, if this is your pose, it doesn't look like it is, you'd put a spacer blanket in here to keep that hip a little more open. Now, Cliff doing this, just watch for a sec, Cliff. Your head stand skull is going to go to the wall, and you keep that jaw, mouth, throat open. As you lengthen, you see this chair is going away from the wall, and my spine gets longer. But I don't push my head against the wall anymore. I just lengthen the spine. Now, the rest of you, you've been up a moment or two, so go for this extension of the arm as if it is coming laterally out from the skull before it lengthens toward the hands, comes out from the skull and neck and goes out to the fingertips. And in this way, you spread the base of the skull, the throat, keep the jaw open, keep the tongue soft, keep the inner walls of the throat wide, back wall of the throat away from the front wall. The whole zone. Now, your frontal brain is on the floor. Keep it quiet, middle brain quiet. Back brain is now on top of the heap. Keep it soft. Don't compress. Don't compress the base of the brain. Don't compress the ear. Keep visualizing yourself as breathing through the ear, the eustachian tube. And stretch your legs and stretch your arms. Now, everybody, prepare to come out. Don't collapse as you come out. Don't give the pose up before it's over. It's not over till it's over. Come out carefully. Knees straight or knees bent. Your criteria is what's going on at the base of the skull. Now you make your recovery here, lengthening, resting the head. So the sign of a good headstand, or so I hear, I hear tell. The sign of a good headstand is when you sit up straight again and your head feels light on your spine instead of, glued more solidly. So all this is to that end. Now, chair out of the way. Sticky mats back down like usual. Oops. Okay. That's upside down. Anyway, we need another neck release, and okay, it's just going to be Chatushpadasana. But blanket. Take a blanket, and better yet, a sticky mat. Do you have a spare sticky mat that you can roll up? If you don't have one, take the one you've got and roll it up tight. So it's a couple of inches diameter. Then you put it, I guess this is a fine distance for the camera you can see, so I'll just be here doing it. Okay. Move anything. So I sit on the end of it and I lay my spine down. I hope you can see where this thing is. Here's the end of the bolster, the sticky mat. And I got it so that it's right at the top of my thoracic spine. I don't know if you see this, at the bottom of my cervical spine. That's this line here. And it's not only on the sticky mat, but the sticky mat goes up my neck more. See that? And you definitely get your necklaces out of the way because you will rip your necklace off your neck. Catch your ankles, or you catch the sides of the sticky mat, or you. Those two are the good alternates. Hold your ankles or hold the sticky mat, and relax this zone here as you take the shoulders down. Now, you saw me wiggle my head. That's to get the base of the skull longer. And I come up and I'm releasing the neck soft, the arms extending away from the skull and away from the spine. So you can take heels up if you need to. Chatushpadasana. By the time you're fully up, the chest should be rolled into a nice pose. You start, if you have not yet begun. Roll those shoulders down. Release the neck and skull. Come up on the tippy toes if you need to relieve any sacrum and low back pressure. Press the arms down. Keep the ear, jaw, mouth soft. Raise those ribs. Roll the shoulders under. Extend the spine. What's your breathing doing? Work with your exhalation now as a way to direct that breath. Release, come out after a few breaths like this. Okay, so to explain this blanket, it's meant to open up these vertebrae, this space in the neck. It's meant to release the grip of the arm from the skull, the neck and skull. It's meant to open this throat region. So that, and without jamming the spine, it gives support to the spine while allowing you kind of free movement or freer movement in those trapezius. So take your sticky mat and fold it in half widthwise So it's now many, many folds. It's like an 8-fold sticky mat. And that's going to be your setubanda blanket. It's a sticky mat, it's not a blanket. And you have a brick at the wall. If you've got 2 bricks, brick at the wall and a brick under the hips. If you have 1 brick, it's just knees bent, feet on the floor. The difficult part about this is getting the distance correct between your shoulders and your feet, because you can't slide anything. It's on sticky mat. So I'm turning my sticky mats my block so it goes across my sacrum instead of spine-wise under the sacrum. And that's because I have an ache on the left side of the sacroiliac. So I'm giving broad support to help me understand how to level it. So if all was well, I'd put that brick spine-wise. And truthfully, it doesn't hurt this way. But here, I might learn more just from how the bones touch. So you put this under the sacrum and you roll those shoulders. And this sticky mat is giving you a bit of spinal lift and stickiness to roll your chest. So the wall is too far from me by not too much. So if I stretch my legs, I'm good. So what you want to arrive at is a position where you can go back to that breath with the chest, throat, neck, head undisturbed in this forward fold. Suzette, your hip is okay? Yes? Good. Now, if you were to lower the brick, you would stretch the front hip. That's for everybody. Nobody is asking you to do it, but the pose is by nature a front hip stretch. But you need both the body, breath, and not both, all 3, body, breath, and mind, interacting completely. You can't put a crimp in the low back in order to open the front hip. Now, you stretch those arms, reach the arms back towards your feet, like Setubandha, like Sarvankasana. That back of the arm reaches away from the skull and away from the spine. And then after you get that kind of stuck position on the sticky mat, let your arms relax, don't shift them, let that traction stay, and roll your palms up. Yes, relax the arm. So this sticky mat is holding your pose in the shoulders, neck, throat, head. And all you have to do now, I'm assuming that you are comfortable in that leg stretch. And if you're not, you bend your knees. So this is just really interesting. The order of business: lengthen the spine, stretch the arms and legs, and in stretching the spine, you are also immediately touching the nervous system, which is the mind, and the breath. So you might as well recognize and make use of the linkage. Stretch the spine, inhaling and exhaling. Physical acts. So use the breath in each of the compartments. Inhaling, scouring, exhaling, distributing energy, distributing consciousness. The mind is active. It's not like your frontal lobes, front brain, midbrain, they don't turn off. Your intellect, your analysis, they don't turn off. They're also interacting. The proportions have changed. Now prepare to come out. Bend the knees, feet come to the floor. Then you raise your hips, keep the hips up, move the brick to the side. Keep your hips up so your own muscles find their connectivity. Then you come back down. Long spine. And when you settle, you'll find you want to get that sticky mat out from under your shoulders. So do that. Then, last act. Lie, wait, last act. Lie, face down. Face down. You can put a rolled blanket. Oh, let's do two things. Face down. Could be a blanket. It could be that flat fold sticky mat. Underneath your, not quite pelvis. Pardon my cat, Ruby. She brought me a mouse. You bring your pubis off the blanket so that you extend the sacrum a little bit, and this support is more under the pelvis abdomen, not under the hip socket. There's my hip socket. That's also my pubis line, okay? Then I go forward and rest my head. This blanket lift isn't always pleasant. It may hit the ribs wrong. You may choose to just get rid of it and let the low back do what it will. But be face down, elbows crossed, head comfortably supported, so that once again, the ears, neck, throat, base of the skull, mouth can be quiet. breathe, not forcefully, but with exploration in mind. The penetration of the breath, its natural velocity, its natural geometry, its natural shape. In this pose, it's different. In any pose, it's different. So let the breath do its work here. Let the spine accept this position. And then, last minute, you will roll to your side. To do that, you bend one elbow, one knee, and that lets you sort of push on the floor, roll to a side, get rid of that blanket and lie flat on your back. You could, of course, put the blanket under your head if you like. That is fine. Don't brace your feet at a wall. Keep your feet free of walls, arms free of walls. So here's my confession. I personally am the world's worst breather. Pranayama is, for me, difficult in the sense of following these formal practices that Iyengar yogis do. But because of my difficulties with my nervous system and breath, I have to work a lot differently. And it's actually not differently, but I have to make use of the same tools differently. That's really the accurate way to put it. So I work with asana to increase the connectivity between my nervous system and my breathing and my muscles and my attention. The Yoga Sutra says that when asana is, Iyengar says, mastered, but that's an interpretive choice, but when you have some control of your asana, the breath begins to move itself more completely and thoroughly. The inhalation and exhalation by themselves begin to deepen. You gain control of that through asana. So that's the stage I'm at. And that's the nature of the pranayama I teach. It is deeply related to the ability of the posture to open and release. Bring yourselves back. Bend your elbows, bend your knees. And just to be clear, it's not, this is partly a personal confession, but also what I'm saying is, because of this, I'm taking you to the part of pranayama learning that is the region of linkage between asana and breath. That is all. Namaskar. Take care.